Hello, parents of Garden City, Mr. Side here coming at you live from the Great Hall in Harry Potter. This is the room where the children in Harry Potter have all their meals, and you have lots of spells and enchantments in the room with floating candles. And I am here to introduce you to the final unit of our Teachers College Reading Workshop program, and it is Fantasy Book Clubs. And the children really wait all year for this unit because it is a phenomenal and, shall we say, magical unit. This final step of the year involves book clubs, and the children love reading in book clubs and discussing their texts and sharing ideas. And fantasy is a great way to end the year. It's magical. It involves great characters in different worlds and different lands and superpowers, and children really relate to this. As well, fantasy books have a complexity that's inherent in them that raises the reading of our children and really gets them ready for middle school. So the three goals of this unit are really launching into book clubs is the first goal, and picking the right fantasy novel. And by this time in the year, we really know your children, and we're helping them and we're guiding them through the process of really picking a book that they're going to just fall in love with. A lot of fantasy books tend to be series. Think Harry Potter, think Lord of the Rings. And that's great because the children might read a book and then want to take it further, like Chronicles of Narnia. There's about seven of those. The second goal of this unit is to help your children become more aware of the quests, of the dragons in the story, of the problems, of the quests that our characters are going on, of the internal and external quests or conflicts that arise. And there's a level of characterization in fantasy that is just a little higher than we're used to. And it involves students really getting to know their characters and also really getting to know themselves. A third goal of this unit is that our children are going to make connections between fantasy and reality. There's a lot of historical background and historical connections that can be made within these fantasy worlds to things that have happened in the past. Chronicles of Narnia takes place during World War II, and there's a lot of connections that can be made between that concept as well. And we're going to be analyzing that and really delving into that deeply and really looking at a character and our own children's social and emotional development throughout understanding their characters a little bit better. And finally, the fourth goal of this unit is that our children will judge and analyze the social impact of these fantasy stories. What do we really learn from our characters? How can we learn the themes and the lessons that we can bring into real life and connect those to our own worlds? So let's talk about some ways that you can help your child at home. Um, Whatever source of media you and your family are used to, then I would say go with that. A movie night, a family movie night could be great because fantasy films are very much like the fantasy novels that we read. The storylines are very similar, the characters are very similar, the quests and the dragons are very similar. Sitting down with your family and watching a great child friendly fantasy film is important, but we have to ask the right questions and we have to discuss the film with our children. And I put some discussion questions in. How did this story take the ordinary and make it extraordinary? And that's a great discussion question you can have with your children. What dragons or problems did the main character or characters overcome? What characters turned out to be different than we expected? Star Wars is a great example of fantasy. A lot of people think it's sci-fi. It's really fantasy, and we see Darth Vader turns out to be very different than we expected. Think Harry Potter. Snape turns out to be very different than we expected. Having these conversations with your children is crucial. And finally, how is this movie similar to something in real life? If you can have those conversations with your child over a movie, they're really going to come out very strong for this unit.